But at the same time, it's kind of freeing because if I tell the same story a bunch of times, I'll be like, oh, I need to make this a comic. They're like, how are you? I'm like, here's the link. Click on it. Subscribe.
Art, horse, art, horse, art, horse, art, horse, art, too cheap to buy jingles. Art, horse, art, horse, art, too cheap to buy jingles. Hey, horse, so this is it. Horse, art.
Jackie, do you want to say welcome to Art Horse?
Sure. Just like, welcome to Art Horse.
Yeah.
Exactly. A silly and serious podcast about creativity and stepping out of your comfort zone. I'm Fiona.
I'm Jess.
And I'm Jackie.
Yay!
Yeah! Our guest today is Jackie Davis from Underpants and Overbites. I'm so glad I didn't say Underbites and Overpants. Because
oh, yeah. I forgive.
Every time I try to say the name of your comic, I always mix it up. But thank you so much, Jackie. You're our first guest.
Oh, I'm so honored.
It feels really special.
We thought it'd be really cool to talk to you, especially because right now you're working on something that's like a big project.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know that it's kind of hard sometimes to work on big projects. And Fiona, do you know the background of Underpants and Overbites?
So I really resisted the temptation to basically Google you, Jackie. I was like, I'm going to watch all the interviews she's done and read all about her. And then I thought, well, maybe it would be better because like if I don't know anything, then I can be the dummy who just asks you things.
Ooh.
So no, I don't know anything. I know nothing.
Ooh, that's exciting.
So how's everybody doing?
Who wants to say how they're doing first? Jess?
Sure. So I am like I was right in the middle of like a million projects, and then my mom was like, we're leaving the day after tomorrow, which is tomorrow. And so now I'm like uprooting, like my dad set up an office for me, so I'm like packing away all my art supplies so that they can stay here, and there's like unfinished paintings. Last week one thing we talked about was like Greg took 100 pictures of me sitting on the toilet, and then I started painting that, and so did you, so we both started painting me sitting on the toilet, but I never finished it, and I won't. If I finish it, I'm gonna start again.
Yeah.
So that sucks. I've got a lot of stuff, but it feels kind of good to be moving again, because I've kind of been stuck and so separate from the pandemic. Like, there's no mask wearing where I am. There's no...
Oh.
And so...
Wait,
well, I mean...
Jess, I was just going to say that's such a classic mom move to not respect that making art is a job.
Ooh,
like it's like 2 days. Like, one time my mom was like, honey, I got laid off or something. And she was like, I'm waiting till the weekend to tell your brothers, but I know you don't have a weekend, so it doesn't matter. And I was like, oh my gosh. But, yeah, please go on.
Ooh.
I just wanted to interject.
Yeah.
Mom!
Oh my goodness.
No, she's getting it now, but, just the art, what's your job? It's like, I don't even know.
Yeah. It seems like it's kind of an adjustment. I think my parents are sort of more adjusted to it now. And, like, I mean, to be fair, my projects weren't, like, for work. They were just, like, me sitting on the toilet. So, like...
The toilet is a dead giveaway of what is my daughter doing with her life.
That's right. Like, I don't know. They saw it and they laughed. And then
They did?
Yeah, and then I lost all motivation to finish it because I kind of got what I wanted out of it, Like, acknowledgement that it was kind of fun, funny, interesting, strange. And I was like, well, my work here is done. I just stopped. So I'm packing and doing laundry and kissing all my half-finished works goodbye.
Wow. Jackie?
Oh, I'm pretty good. It's definitely that, like, Friday afternoon thing where I look back at my planner and see all the things I didn't complete, and then I, like, briefly question my worth as a person, and then I'm like, yeah, it's sunny out. I think I'm gonna go play with, 6 feet apart from some kids after this. So I'm like, it's fine. But yeah, my online store is like really challenging to my brain because it's so many different things. So I'm just like, okay, gotta print. Oh, the paper's the wrong size. Gotta cut the paper with an X-Acto knife.
Oof. That's a huge job.
It's a huge job.
I was just gonna say that sounds irritating as hell.
It is, but I like money, so
Oh my god, me too.
do it.
Wait, you guys like money too?
Oh my god, best friends.
We have so much in common.
Oh Lord.
I like air as well. I love air.
Oh my god, don't get me started
Love
on
food.
air.
Food.
Shelter.
Toilets are pretty good too,
Yeah.
not gonna lie.
Oh god.
But no, I mean, I'm okay. I got a big
Good.
deadline soon, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah.
But I'm actually in this point where I'm just like, I'm like way more relaxed with creating things than I have been, I just
What?
get done what I can and
Oh my god.
try again the next day and trust that I'm not like a has-been while I continue to...
You'll have to tell us your
Have.
secrets.
Yeah, I will. One of the secrets is a lot of therapy, but
Oh,
we,
brilliant. Okay.
we can cover that later.
Yeah. Okay, me?
Mm-hmm.
I am back at my aunt's house in Almont because my whole family is moving into this house in like 2 weeks and there's just stuff all over the place. So I'm here for like a week to help my aunt sort of get things in order. And it's just really nice to be in a different place. But I am like, if you were to ask me, hey Fiona, how's your spirit? I would say maybe dampened. I don't know. Feeling like same as last week. I was talking about how I was feeling a little bit like low, a bit low most days, and like not really knowing what to do about it. So I feel like that's just persisting. But like on most levels, I'm perfectly fine,
Yeah. Like that thing you were saying about like nothing to phone home about, but
Yeah. But I'll be busy this week, so got shit to do.
like moving stuff around.
Organizing. I like organizing.
Yeah, it's definitely like with COVID, so many events have been canceled. And for me, like comic conventions were just like the highlight of my year because I would be like,
Yeah.
meet people just in real life. It kind of like, it was payoff for hiding in my gopher hole. And then now I'm like, this is so not fun. But then the other day I just
Yeah.
spent hours like circling campsites on a map. And I was like, I'm going to go here.
Oh.
And then I'm going to go here. And then I'm gonna go here. And I mean, I guess I'll be alone, or
Yeah.
like with like one person. But
But like
it
a
still
different
felt,
place is a different place.
it still felt good to be like, I'll make a memory over here and maybe a memory over there.
Yeah.
So that's
And like a future plan.
right. Instead of just like look out your window and be like, oh, it's all still here. That's good.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I just wanted to give a little update on my toilet painting situation,
Okay.
which is that I started to paint you, Jess, on the toilet, and then I stopped and I can't start again. So it's in progress, so it won't be, but I'm really determined to get it done after I get back to Kingston, so
Wow.
I don't know. So we both started and then we were like, yep, that's good. Halfway done, just stopped.
Yeah. I don't know. I find big projects can be really kind of overwhelming. Like the picture that I painted was really big, and I know Jackie, you do sometimes really long comics with a lot of like I've been having this experience lately where I discovered like acrylic paint on paper, and it's been really fun. But like I'm making comics and finding that even just for 2 panels, it takes such a long time to finish them that I'm like, was this story even worth telling in the first place?
Oh, yeah. There's a big ratio going on. It's called
Like-
payoff. I'll be like, does this have payoff? This has no payoff.
I don't even know what that means.
Is it as is it worth reading as hard as it was to make? And then
okay.
you just have to decide, like, you know, and sometimes I'm like, I'm in it just for me. It's worth it. And then other times I'm like, 20 paneler with like 40 different angles, and all I said was that I forgot my sandwich. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. Maybe I'll do that like save that for an Inktober. Just bang that out.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think sometimes a big theme in your comics is like, not theme, but something that you do really well, I think, is like tying the human experience into a larger human narrative, like taking like day-to-day stuff and then being like how you connect to the rest of the world and how everyone sort of comes together. I feel like those ones are really often heavy hitters, like with probably a lot of payoff.
Oh yeah, totally. Sometimes when I write a good comic, I'll like dance around my room being like, yes, yes, I've done it. And then other times it feels like I'm just poking out my own eyeballs to like move a pencil across a piece of paper. But I do love that part about my comics is that it's like, it'll just be a snippet from my life, but it's basically everybody's life. Like
Yes.
some tired person in underpants, and they're like, all right, yeah, that's my Uncle Joey, you know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so can I just like ask some questions to start? Because like I said, I don't really know anything about you.
Sure. Yeah, ask me anything.
Are you American?
I am.
Okay. Why did I think... I thought that you were Canadian for the longest time, and I don't know why.
I think I might be flattered. I don't know.
Well, just like, I don't know, because Jess
Is
said
it
like...
because
oh,
my comics are like totally Hufflepuff and sweet?
Maybe. They have like a Canadian air about them.
Yeah, like a soft, squishy,
Non-confrontational.
Niceness to them, yeah. Could be. I don't know. I think because, like, you're friends with Jess, and I was like, well, Jess and I, we're friends with Canadians, so Jackie must be Canadian. I don't know. So, I don't even know, like, Underpants and Overbites, is that your job?
It is my job, yeah.
Okay. So you're, like, a professional, full-time artist.
Yeah, I'm an artist.
Cool.
I used to work in coffee shops after I went to art school. And then...
Oh, you did?
I know, shame, right?
No, it's so cool.
Yeah, I went to art school, and then I just always wanted to, like, do my own thing, because I'm totally unemployable. So I could be employed by coffee shops slightly, although I never rose to any management position, because I didn't understand the payoff. I'd be like, well, I'm not gonna own the coffee shop.
Right.
Yeah. Like, what's the point in like, moving up in this thing that I don't really care about, kind of?
Yeah, and I mean, I totally get why other people care about it. I just, I was just like, I'm in it for the free cookies, and the tips are good. Let's do this. But then, in, I think, October of 2017, I started the comics in, like, 2016, and then...
I have a funny question for just that very moment. Do you remember, like, the first you ever drew? Like, the first comic? Like, where you were and, like, what you were, why you were doing it?
I don't know if I remember, like, the very first me, but I used to, like, I was just drawing these, like, blobby creatures, and I'd draw my coworkers as these, I called them lumps. I drew them as lumps, and then I drew customers as lumps, and people thought they were really funny. And then eventually I drew myself as a lump. And because drawing other people, I had such a limited narrative. I'd be like, Americano guy likes to wear a bow tie. And then I'd be like, that's it. That's all I know about this man. This is an unfair judgment of a person based on their order. And so then drawing myself, I did a few colored pencils. I did like one in marker where she didn't have any arms. And then I recognized the limitations of no arms. And then for a long time, she didn't have fingers until I recognized limitations of mittens. And she still doesn't have a nose or visible ears, but she can hear and smell. So it's just implied. Yeah, she wears headphones sometimes. I don't know. I don't know where to put earbuds, but the big ones just go on top.
Somehow.
So, there's like no bridge. But yeah, then I did that I made comics for 2 years and worked at the coffee shop, and I would always, like, post them in the bathroom. Oh, I did a comic every Tuesday for 2 years, and I'd post them in the bathroom.
For the coffee shop bathroom.
Yeah, from the bathroom, and they like someone would like refresh Instagram and be like, "I know what you did in there," and I'd just be like, "Yeah, sorry." And then eventually they were like, "I didn't get fired. I just got told to like work harder, which I didn't want to do." So then I just excused myself.
I'll show myself out.
And it had already like. I'd already, like, you know, been winding down, but the funniest part is, like, after it was, like, my final shift, and they were like, can you cover 6 to noon on Tuesday? We just can't get anyone. And I was like, fine. So then I worked one more time. Then I was like, okay, goodbye. And then I tied my laces together and threw my filthy coffee shoes over, like, a lamppost in the alley. And I was like,
That's very Breakfast Clubby of you.
Wow.
My other question is, I guess it's kind of like a basic ass question, but
sure.
like, did you always know, like, how did you know that comics were the thing for you?
Oh, I had no idea. I just, like, drew blindly for years, not connecting. I, like, journaled obsessively, and I, like, cannot even go read my other journals, because, like, every other word is, like, a scathing judgment. and so I journaled for years, and then I drew, like, puns on the side, like an egg rolling down a hill, and it would be like, eggs over easy, and I'd be like, ha ha ha.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. And then I went to art school, and I just, like, drew things in hats, and, like, things that worked in cubicles, and just rotund creatures with 2 eyes on the same side. And then...
I don't want to interject, but I do want to interject. Maybe we could talk about it in a second, but I feel like art school is an interesting...
Oh, I would love to talk about it. Okay. I'll finish this thread,
Please
though, which is...
Yes.
I hadn't really read comics. I just loved The Simpsons. I read, you know, Where's Waldo? I don't know what that is. Like, he's cool. You know, the wizards. The scroll's hard to find or whatever.
Oh, yeah, and the dog.
And the dog. And, like, Tintin. But I went to...
love Tintin.
Through all of art school, and I'd never read, like, a graphic novel. And then my husband, Pat, who I met in art school, he, for years after we graduated, he was like, yo, you should read a graphic novel. And I was like, whatever, man. I don't like Superman. And then I read some, like, indie stuff. And that was when I was working at the coffee shop, and I read Blankets by Craig Thompson. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And then I read, like, 500 comics. And they were all in, like, the teen section of the library. And then I'd wear a backpack, so the teens would, like, invite me to hang out. And I'd be like, I'm sorry. I'm too old.
When they wanted to hang out with you because you wore a backpack?
Well, they'd just be
You're
like,
one of us.
Like, you like comics? And I'd be like, I'm just gonna take these and go. I'm sorry. And then afterwards, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta make a graphic novel. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to do that. I'm just gonna make comics. And then there's this kind of magical combination of the writing and the drawing squished into one, into this diary comic, because I love stories and writing. You know, I've been writing my feelings forever, and it was all just like, wow, this is what I'm going to do now. And then it's, you know, gone from there and taken different forms, and I still don't know how the heck you write a graphic novel, but I'll just keep writing tiny snacks, see what happens.
Yeah. Maybe I could ask about the art school situation.
Yes, please.
Because, like, when you hear, or at least when I hear somebody say, oh, I went to art school, I wonder, like, your parents let you do that? What was the situation for you, and, like, basically telling your parents that you were going to go to art school?
Like, admitting who I wanted to be?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Like, Mom, Dad?
I'm an artist. No, I remember this, like, I did, like, really well in high school, just with all the subjects, but I was just, like, super bored, and I was like, I thought the only jobs that existed in the world were high school subjects.
Oh my god, same.
Like, I was like, do I want to be a mathematician or a historian?
Or a scientist? Yeah, exactly, me too.
And I was like, parents, I can't do this. The only elective subject thing I can bear is art. And they were like, okay, whatever.
Okay.
And my dad was like, I do remember, though, like, my first semester, he called me and was like, so you don't take math? And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, whatever. And actually, both my parents, my mom went to art school for ceramics, but then
Oh, cool.
she didn't really do it, but she was like a nice mom, that would like draw with me and stuff. But then she got into like computer programming to support a family, that happens.
That whole thing.
My dad is actually he's a pastry chef from Austria.
Whoa.
No way!
Yeah, so he's like, he had a bakery. It was like our garage had been converted into a bakery, one side of it. And then he ran his own business and like made cakes and stuff. I said cakes and stuff, but like he made like an Eiffel Tower out of chocolate and like,
Wow.
like real like precise cake making. And so I think part of me wanting to go to art school was like, okay, rock on.
Yeah,
That's
that
cool.
makes sense. That, like, as parents who are creative, like, that fits into our idea of what a adult is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just like, here's your student loan paperwork. And then I'm like, oh, you got it.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't like, oh my gosh, we need to choose between art school and the family farm. It was like, go to college. We live in the suburbs. That's what you do.
Yeah. So where did you go to art school?
I went to Syracuse. It's like 90 minutes away from Rochester.
And was art school, like, was it everything you dreamed it would be? Was it worth the money?
Oh, those are two different questions.
Yeah, those are, for sure.
I would say, yeah. I mean, I tell myself it's worth the money because I had to pay the money. So
Yeah.
then I'm like, I'm sort of a positive momentum person where I'm like, yeah, I met friends and I ended up here. Totally worth it. But, 4 years of undergrad school is just like so magical for the like illusion that like life is limitless. I know that sounds like terrible, but it's just like the best feeling ever to be in between semesters and you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing with my life. So right now I'm just going to ride a Greyhound bus westward. And it's like so, and like to have that space is really valuable. And I mean, it's very expensive, but it's also like really sort of once in a lifetime to just be stuck in a dorm and be like, what are we doing tonight? Strangers? Like, whatever. And working out your problems on other people. I loved it, but I definitely went without any... Like, I got there, and I met Pat, and we both decided to do the illustration program, and he was like, I picked it because the illustration program's, like, the best in, I don't know, the state or something. And then I was like, I just came here because the mascot's in orange, and I wanted to do art. And then, like, the first year you don't pick your major, and you just have to, like, draw all these cylinders over and over again, and it's horrible. And I, like, had to do a 3D class, and it was like, I cannot emphasize my lack of comprehension when it comes to three-dimensional objects. I don't know, everything in my world is like flat. And then they were like, you gotta pick a major, and Pat was like, I'm doing illustration. And I was like, it's kind of the same dilemma as high school. I was like, well, I don't want to be an advertising designer. I don't like ceramics. Like,
I don't want to do shapes forever.
Right. I guess I like
have no
stories.
depth perception.
And so it was sort of like, I mean, I can't imagine if like, the difference between undergrad and grad school would have to be night and day. If I went back now, I'd be like, this is like the most serious I will ever be in my life. But in grad school, in undergrad, I just made like fluffernutter sandwiches and didn't realize I was paying like $70 an hour to not pay attention.
Oh my God.
And I'd be like, class was canceled. Woo!
Yeah.
I got this bad dining hall job. I mean, it was really fun, but it was like, woof. If you really do the math on it, I'm like, yikes.
Yeah. Oh boy.
I feel like when I went to school for an undergraduate degree, it felt like we've talked before about big things, like things that happen to be significant. You don't know what's going to come out of it, but you know that it's going to like change you, kind of.
Yeah, or be decisive in some way.
Yeah, and so like the first time I went through, I was kind of the same about like, I don't know, yay, class is canceled, and like being really relaxed. And then any further school I was much more critical of. Like, I came out of university feeling quite, critical of it. And I think, like, I don't know, I wonder what, having gone to art school, what would be your, like, here's what you need to know about art school? Like, what is your one lasting impression?
I would just say no one can teach you what you're not willing to learn.
Damn.
Oh.
And so I just blamed everyone for me not being better, but I just wasn't listening.
That feels deep and like I'll stay awake at night, like thinking about it, and I'll be like, no one can teach you what you're not willing to learn.
Yeah, because it is easy to be like, oh man, like that teacher was,
Yeah,
so blah,
for
blah,
sure.
blah. And then it's like, if I could go back in time and sit on the side of that classroom, I wonder what was really happening. Not to say teachers are blameless, but I imagine a lot of them.
If I could go back to my undergrad, what I would do would be try to, like, because I was so focused on grades. Like, I was doing whatever I could to get the best grade instead of doing whatever I could to actually, like, retain information and, like, actually learn. So, like, if there was some expedient way to study that meant I didn't actually have to remember anything, then I did that instead.
Oh, same, like art
And so,
history.
yeah.
I'd just be like,
Yeah.
I was proud of how much I could, like, flush a thought. I'd be like, I aced that, Rococo, it's gone now.
Exactly. I know. And things like, they didn't stick because I wasn't there to learn. I was there to, like, get a degree. And I studied politics, and I was the same. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to be a politician, which is like, that is not how that has to work.
Not that, like, 100 people are employed for, like, every politician that exists or something.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel kind of, like, from the sense that I've gotten from what you've been talking about, I sort of recognize something in you that's, like, a sort of hesitancy to, like, make big decisions. Do you feel that at all?
Oh, I mean, definitely.
Like, when I was going into undergrad, I was like, I don't really know what I want to take. And my mom, like, printed out these pages from the Ottawa U website, and she was like, choose one of these. And I was like, okay, I'll take politics. It was, like, the huge decision of my life, and I just was like, all right, I guess I'll do this.
I think it's hard because, like, in a school system, at least my experience was I was raised with so little, like, autonomy, and then all of a sudden the world is like, time to choose. So it's like, how could I choose? I've been
like, I literally don't know how.
Yeah, and I've, like, haven't learned any, like, genuine confidence. Everything is, like, grade manipulation through charm and, like, strategy.
And it's like, we don't know what the options are in the world, so we're just like, I guess I'll do the thing that's closest to my experience so far.
Right. 100%.
Man.
So you guys were talking about being, like, a fly on the wall of your sort of university self. So in packing, I also had to clean out this closet, and I was looking at all of this stuff from, like, high school where people had, like, written me, like, notes and, like, and I'm like, man, like, I just had no idea what was going on. Just, like, in general, like, if I could go back, like, I don't know, it was just such an interesting snapshot of, like, like, what we think of the world, like, what we think the world is like, and what we think other people are, and what we think they want from us.
And what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, what you think is important at that time.
Oof. That's a big one.
And Fiona, it sounded like you were saying, like, your GPA was really important.
Oh, hell yeah.
But then now it's like, oh my gosh, like, I would shame someone for mentioning their GPA. I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, get out of here. What are you talking about?
And now I wish I had, like, paid more attention in, like, political theory, because that shit's really interesting, and I don't understand it at all, even though I studied it. But I didn't, like, learn all that much, I guess.
There's a lot of, like, nuance to stuff that happens when you have a little bit of, like, world experience. Like, when you enjoy, I don't know who enjoys watching the news, but, like, when you kind of, see how stuff works.
You can, like, break down the fear of it, because I definitely, like, reject things I don't understand.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because they embarrass me. And so instead of just being like, let me learn about this, I'll be like, whine people. And then I just write, you know, and I remember I made like this enormous list of things that I hated. And I was just like so satisfied after I made it. I was like, yeah, that's right. I hate all that. But really, I was just building a tiny box to live in because there's nowhere to go.
Man.
I remember in undergrad, there was like a symposium element for like a single credit where every week they had a different working artist come in, like an editor from the New York Times, and they were just like so boring to me. And then up front was this like 25-year-old student, and he'd always like raise his hand and ask like a super relevant question, like which was like proof that he'd read their bio, and the people would always be like, I'm sorry, what was your name again? Like, see me after the symposium. And I would just be like, this guy. And like, now I'm totally that guy.
That guy.
Right, like, but it's because he's seen the darkness of like 4 years of dead-end employment or something. And he's like, Syracuse is, you know, it's my chance. And I'm just asleep.
Exactly.
Every symposium.
Yeah. Like, I feel like if we all went back and did an undergrad now, we would get so much more out of it, and like...
I feel like I'd have less fun, I would say.
For sure. And just in general, I have less fun now, but yeah. 1 second. I have written in my doc, Miss Jackie, girl, how do you do it?
What?
And I think what I meant by that was, how often do you do a comic? Is it every day? Is it like Jess's thing where you do something every day?
Ooh, no. I mean, sometimes I do challenges where for a period of time, I make a comic every day, but I can't sustain it. So at the least, I make one comic a week.
Oh.
For Patreon. And then I try to make more comics and then like put them online for the general audience to get more, you know, engagement and stuff like that. But no, it's a comic a week. And I mean, right now it's like a whole bunch of comics because I'm making a book, but...
Do you want to tell us about your book?
Oh, sure. My book is, well, I've self-published 2 books before, and one was like, I made a comic every week for 2 years. That's like the first 100 and whatever math that is. 112 or I don't know. 104 maybe. I made a comic a week for 2 years, and then I made a book of that, and then I did 100 comics in 100 days, and so that was like a really fun challenge, and I made a book of that, and then for the past 2 years I've just been making lots of comics on and off. So your previous books, they were like collections of the work you'd already done? Yeah, and that's what this one is too. So
it is, okay.
It's like, it's
not like all new work for a book?
Oh no.
Okay.
In July I did write like a ton of I like wrote comics just on like paper, in pencil, but then they were like, oh, you still have so many that they've never been put in book form. Like there's no point in making a ton of new ones because then they're just going to push out the old ones. So I'm only making like a handful of new ones for the book, but I still have to do like a cover and an inside cover and a bio and stuff. But it's nothing compared to if they were like, make us a new book.
Yeah, because I was wondering, I wasn't sure if you were like having to produce entirely new content for this, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of...
Oh yeah, no way.
A lot of work. Okay.
It was enough work to like organize all my old work into a folder. Yeah. I was like, whew, this is really taking it out of me.
Wow, cool. So do you get up at the same time every day and start work at the same time every day?
I try to. I usually get up at 6 and then I get up at 6:28 and then I do yoga from 6:30 to 7:30 and now it's like online. So you have to like log in by the time it happens and then I have to like take my retainers out while the instructor's like, good morning everyone. I'm like, ugh. and I do some yoga from 6:30 to 7:30 and then I like roll up my mat and walk around the block for a commute and eat breakfast and then make coffee.
You walk around the block for a commute?
Yeah, because I'm like going to work.
Oh my god, I love that.
And then usually like Pat wakes up, I make him some coffee. He's a good sleeper. And then we eat some breakfast, and then I try to get to work by 9. Because then between like 8:30 and 9, I can like, I don't know, water my garden or...
You've basically like lived a whole day before 9 in the morning.
Yeah, before Jess has gotten up. That's an impressive as hell morning routine. So do you find that you're like pretty good at self-motivating, or maybe the word would be self-discipline? I'm not sure.
Oh, totally.
You are?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, if anything, I had to learn how to like have more fun. It sounds counterintuitive because in college, I definitely like messed around a lot and was just like, whatever. But I think it was like underlying low-level anxiety and just like folding my sock drawer. This sort of, you mentioned like not being able to make decisions, and for me it was also just like living really small and like thinking everyone's mad at me. And so over time it's like, oh, nobody cares what's going on. Like, someone is probably being chewed on by a 3-year-old right now. Like, they don't care about my typo. And so it's a lot of that work. So then I can self-motivate because I don't have, like, a panic alarm going off in my head.
Oh my god. You've cracked the code.
I feel like
somehow
that kind of connects to what you were saying earlier about trusting that you're not a has-been and just in general being less hard on yourself.
Totally.
Creatively.
Yeah.
And like, what's that like?
Oh, for me? I mean, I would say like the more fulfilling my life is off the internet, the less concerned I am about what happens on the internet. So definitely like, I mean, still love the internet. So
when you say life off the internet, what is that?
You gotta turn off your phone. No, I mean, just like hanging out with people and like having places to be and lots of regulation, honestly, like, and this comes from like a hard path of learning because I totally gave myself shingles like a year ago.
What?
Just from stress, and then I couldn't like sit up for a month, and I just had to like be all grumpy and try to draw on the floor, and nothing was ever good enough. And so since then I've been like doing yoga and like making pots of soup and calling my mom, but also making comics and
And I feel like you do a lot of like getting outside. Like, you're always going for a walk, you're always going camping, you're always like finding weird stuff on the side of the road.
Totally.
Like...
Oh yeah, I love your weird stuff. Didn't you find like toilet paper or something?
I did. I found like a roll in the street.
Wow.
Still dry.
Amazing.
I found a waffle maker the other day. It was awesome.
Yeah. Did you make waffles yet?
I did. I accidentally used baking soda instead of baking powder, and they were inedible.
Shit.
Oh, that's too bad.
But then I made a redemption batch, so we're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you always got to do it twice, I think.
But I peeled a piece off and fed it to Pat, and he was the first one to taste it, and he was like, oh.
Delicious.
And then we like ate a few bites in denial, covered in syrup, and then eventually I was like,
Nobody's saying anything. You're both just silently chewing.
Slowly chewing, yeah. It seems like you found a sort of like rhythm and routine that works for you, that helps you to actually get stuff done.
Yeah.
In like a timely manner.
Oh, and I take the weekends off.
Yeah. So you take like evenings, weekends off like a real job.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely like slip up here and there. My book's due on, next week, so I'm only taking this weekend like half off, but then after that I'm taking a whole week off for reals.
Oh,
so then
nice.
I'm like, it's okay.
That's super impressive.
What do you guys do? Just panic?
Jesus.
Yeah. I like fuck around until 4 p.m. And then panic. Exactly.
And then someone's like, hey, you want to do something fun? And you're like, why would you even ask me that?
Yeah.
I don't deserve fun.
And I'm like, well, it's 4 o'clock. Day's over. I'm not going to get anything done. So then I go do the fun thing.
Yeah.
Feeling like a schlub.
I think, like, for me, I did daily comics for so long, which required, like, I had no self-control over anything. So I'd be, like, up at 4 in the morning, like, trying to scrawl out just something, like, anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was just like, it was miserable. It was just a miserable existence, being tired all the time and like having no sort of self-care. And I remember like two things, because we met in person at the Montreal Comic Arts Festival a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys were saying, like, you were talking about yoga and stretching, and that was like the first time I heard of like valuing your body as a professional. And it was like you guys were on this like other level of being organized in a professional sense and like valuing priorities, I guess is the right word.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. So that was one thing, was like realizing that if you're going to do artistic things all the time, you can't just hunch over your desk like I do. I don't stretch.
Yeah. Like there has to be some sort of balance in your life kind of thing.
Yeah, like you kind of have to rearrange your life a little bit around that thing in some ways to enable you to sustainably do the thing.
Yeah, because like sometimes I'm like, I got so much to do, I gotta do it right now. But then I know that if I don't go for a walk, I'll just like waste that amount of time later. But it takes like acquiring the data like 1,000 times to be like, oh,
I'm starting to notice a pattern.
yeah. And I still have to fight it. I still have to be like, okay. You know what happens. Put a bra on. You've been here before.
I think that sort of idea of trusting yourself to know that you need a walk and being able to see those patterns is like a really hard lesson for a person, speaking like for myself, about not having a lot of autonomy growing up. And like it sounds like you too.
Yeah, and not only a lack of specific autonomy, but sort of a lack of self-worth. I feel like, I don't want to speak for all artists, but as myself, I'm like, I definitely started the comics to kind of create, I mean, because I love them, but also subconsciously create external validation for people to be like, oh, like for me to get enough data from other people to tell myself that I matter. And so then,
That's juicy.
of course, that's gonna not lead to good self-care. And so it's sort of like, I have to like overcome, like it's like this performance, like you want to see like how low I can go before I hurt myself. And then the people are like, that's not what we wanted. Like, we just think these are cool. Like, that's all happening in your head. And so, yeah, then the like, I need to take myself for a walk. It's like, of course that's hard. Because I started this whole thing because I wanted to prove that I have value.
Yeah.
And tell good stories,
When you put things on Instagram, do you kind of still or ever have that thing where you're like, oh, just making up a number here, like 4,000 people liked this. That means that today I am 8 out of 10 a good human kind of thing. Like, do you have like attachment to like the reaction that you get online?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely love to be like, doesn't matter at all, just living day by day. But honestly, as long as I don't get like a super negative reaction, then I'm like, oh, this is fine, Like,
okay.
As long as it's not like,
That's good.
it very rarely happens. But yeah, just if people shouted at me. But also a key to my enjoyment is that I only go on Instagram to post a comic. And I have a schedule on my planner that tells me when I go on there again.
Whoa.
No way.
Yeah.
What about like responding to comments?
I post a comic and then I check like in 20 minutes and then I respond to any of those comments that exist and then I just don't go back.
Wow.
Just because,
That's
then it's
amazing.
like, oh, there's, it's interactive, but then I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Sounds like there's some really good like boundaries around the influence that you allow other, I don't even know what to call the internet at large, but like other things
Yeah.
to have over you and your actions. Because I feel like I can be so easily governed by, the whims of the internet. Like, oh, I just did this thing and now I have to refresh it and I'm gonna, check to see if I got any more internet points and then I'm gonna like...
Internet points. Well, governed is such a good word. And also I realized like I kind of I stopped checking after I realized that there's no there's no winning. Because if I get a lot of likes, I'm going to refresh to see how many I'm getting. And then I'm going to compare the next thing that I made. And if it doesn't get as many, then I'm like, I'll never make something this good again. And then if it doesn't get a lot, I'll refresh how few are happening. I'll be like, come on, baby.
Yeah, where are you guys?
Right. And I can't control it. I can only control what I make. I can't control how anyone reacts to what I make.
Wow.
What is your... This is not a serious question if you don't want it to be, but what is your deepest, darkest feeling about writing your book?
Oh my gosh. My deepest...
Like, what is something that you've had, like, a really hard time struggling with that you've gotten over?
Oh, well, making a diary comic, like, so many people get to read about my life. Sometimes I'm like, I don't get to read about yours. This isn't fair. And, like, and there's two sides to it. Because one is, like, I meet people and I feel like they already know me, which is amazing. And then if they like me, then we can connect. Like, I went to Japan last year and made a comic that invited people in Japan to, like, hang out with me. And I slept on someone's floor. And she was like, hey, I have free ice cream from my husband's work. Like, let's hang out. And it was amazing. And so everyone I met in Japan was just like, it's like they already knew me and it was awesome. But then sometimes in my own life, I have, like, friends that I'm still trying to get to know. And then they'll just be like, yeah, I get you. And I'm like, but you're not sharing. Like, why? I don't know you. And so I just kind of had to, like, just get over it, you know? Because that's like having expectations for people. And, like, they're not going to start a diary comic. And if they did, I'd probably go out of business. Because there'd be too many diary comics.
No, there's never too many diary comics. I love them so much. I think
I know.
That's such an interesting point about the reciprocity of more persistent relationships. Like, relationships that go on, for longer than the trip. Like, they're in real life, you'll meet out for a walk and you'll, like, share a story and... so it's different when the people that read the things that you're going through.
And they already know your stories. It's like unbalanced.
Yeah, it's weird. But at the same time, it's kind of freeing because if I tell the same story a bunch of times, I'll be like, oh, I need to make this a comic. And then I just never have to tell it again because it exists.
Shortcut.
Yeah. They're like, how are you? I'm like, here's the link. Click on it. Subscribe.
I love that. That really got me.
I just got a big QR code. I'm like, do it. Yeah, those are still cool.
You get it, like, tattooed on you. You're like, here.
Scan me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. Thank you.
So along with, like, deep, dark feelings, I guess this is in the same sort of category, but, like, I feel like whenever you do a big project, there's a lot of, like, things that you sort of learn as you go, or, like, maybe not about the process, but about yourself. Like, stuff sometimes comes up, or, like, even, like, every week when we've been talking, it's like, did anything significant come up for you this week? Is, like, a big topic on our horse. And so I'm wondering, like, did anything big happen for you in the last couple weeks? Like, through the writing of your book, or through writing comics, or...
Oh, I would say, like, I'm really glad that I self-published 2 books already, and I kind of, like, made them as thick as possible to be like, look, it's a book! You could kill a bug with it! Like, look, I'm an artist! And so, it feels really good to be making a book with a, legit publisher with, like, real distribution for the first time, but to have already made them where I'm like, here's the cover, whatever. Like,
yeah.
Just kind of... It's gonna be what it's gonna be, and I can't really control what happens. And honestly, for the cover, I just told myself that it wasn't gonna be the actual cover, it was just a mock-up, and then I just finished it. And I was like, oh, this looks awesome! And so I had to lie to myself a little bit out of like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how many people are gonna read this. This is gonna, like, exist physically for a long time. This is too stressful. And so I would just say, like, relaxing and trusting that people want to work with me because I'm already good enough, not because I have to prove anything.
Whoa.
Totally. I just want to say I love that trick when I used to be I would have such writer's block. I would just say, okay, this is just a draft, just write whatever. And then I write it, and then I'm like, oh, you know what, that's pretty good. Feels like it's done. And then it's done.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really the best trick ever. I love it. Sorry, Jess, I interrupted you.
I was gonna say, like, on the topic of knowing that you're already good enough and feeling like you're already, like, I'm so struggling with that exact opposite of that thing. Like, I feel like, because I'm trying to put together a proposal for a book, and it's painful because every time I try to write the proposal, I'm like, it has to be good enough for a bookstore, it has to be good enough for my, fans to read, it has to be good enough for people to find me who don't know me. Like, if someone picks it up at a bookstore and flips through it, like, I don't want them to just, like, put it back on the shelf. And, like, it's such a weird moment of when you believe that you're not good enough already, how hard it is to do anything, because you're always thinking from the perspective of the witness or, like, the audience. Like, you're always thinking of someone else's perspective, and you can't even truly pin down your own. So I think it makes so much sense to, like, that it was good and helpful to publish a book first, because you had this practice being like, that's good enough for me. Because I feel like self-publishing a book, you're like, nobody else has to maybe, like, I don't know if that's true, but, like, maybe it feels different.
Oh, I mean, the stakes are totally low. I mean, they just exist in my house. Like, if nobody likes them, that's fine.
Yeah, like, you can print, like, 10 of them and then be like, eh.
And then be like, wow, they all sold out.
Right. And but, like, Jess, I think it's like thinking too far ahead. It's like, why make a brick when you think about what kind of house it's going to be? Like, it's just too much.
It's
and then
so much.
It's like having an empty lot. And then it's like, will anyone want to come? And for me, I had to, like, put my blinders on and just be like, okay, tomorrow I got to make another comic. Tomorrow I got to do this. I got to feed myself. Oh, I got shingles. Time to reevaluate. But I know that feeling of, like, I can't finish anything because it's not good enough. And it isn't good enough because you never finish it.
Yeah, because you could hardly start it.
Totally.
I don't know. So, like, did you have a quota of comics that you had to make?
No, I was...
Because you're saying you did a couple extra?
Yeah, I just ended up making, like, 12.
Oh, yeah.
And I still have to finish them. I know it's not, like, a sexy number of, like, I gotta get that book.
No, it's like, those are 12 juicy special things, That's a precious,
Yeah, and then in July... Okay, so, like, in July I was like, I'm gonna make 31 comics in 31 days. And then just, like, my life happened and I didn't, but I wrote 37 comics in 37 days, but I didn't finish them. But they were, like... They're, like, awesome, so then they only want 12, and so then I only need, like, 1 a week for Patreon, and, like, I suppose objectively that challenge was, like, a failure, but it actually just opens up this idea of, like, batching things, and then having, like, a long game, and doing stuff more, like, taking, like, Thanksgiving week off, and, like, pre-scheduling a comic, and then just, like, having an existence, so... that there's a lot of learning there where I'm like, oh, I don't have to feel like I'm slipping through this, like, door right as it's shutting, and then I gotta reach back and, like, grab my hat before it chops my arm off.
Yeah.
That's stressful, and I think sometimes it's so interesting because I don't know if this part would go on the podcast, but Greg was like, this is good. There's going to be a lot of big decisions coming up. Like, we're deciding where to live now. And, like, there's a window of, like, 10 years where you can decide to have kids, like 5 to 10 years.
Oh, so stressful.
And I'm like, I know. And I was like, and then I was like, my life is over. And there's this feeling of, like, well, it was so strange because I was like, what the fuck have I been doing for the last, like, 3 to 5 years, like, literally just sitting down at my desk, like, doesn't feel like enough. And I've been doing other things, but, like, not having those boundaries makes your life sort of slip away.
Well, it's also hard, though, because not having those boundaries is, like, I needed to not have those boundaries for my comic to be successful.
Oh,
I mean,
shit.
I'm not saying like, everyone get your shingles merit badge, but it's like, I was 26 and I could work a 9-hour shift and make comics for 7 hours, and be so tired. And it's like, that's so scary because, yeah, on one hand I'm preaching like, work-life balance. And then it's like, but also it's so hard to be an artist. I think that's just the catch is like the value of art in society is very narrow and low. So I would love to be like, make a lasagna, paint a painting, and
find a waffle maker.
Right, like chill. And I'm not like, out of the woods. I'm not just like sitting on my velvet cushion, like
levitating,
sending things off to my, non-existent employees. It's like,
yeah, that's one of the things that I've had to talk about before is like, whenever I'm basically in therapy, talking about like being really hard on myself and putting a lot of pressure on myself, it always comes, like, to me, it always comes down to, but I wouldn't have been successful if I hadn't really, really over pushed myself. Like I wouldn't have gotten those really good grades and then done this, and that and gotten this internship if I hadn't like absolutely worked myself to the bone. So it's like, you have to find some sort of balance between like wanting to push yourself because your standards are high, but also not like pushing yourself to the point where you get shingles, basically.
Right. And like, I do think now I like get more work done, and maybe my bad habits were a symptom of low self-esteem, because if I was punishing myself, it felt like I was working hard. And so, maybe in a perfect world, it's just like, I do a little work and I play a little bit. And, instead it's like, maybe I was just telling myself I did more work than I did, because half the time it was like low-level stress or comparison or just staring into the abyss.
Yeah, it's like being a fly on that wall again. Like that idea of like, if I looked at myself, like what actually was I doing?
Right.
like I was, torturing myself by not having a schedule.
Right, because then you're like, and then you can like snap at someone at a Christmas party and be like, I work all the time. And it's like,
yeah.
Do you?
Oh my god. That is like exactly me. That is totally me. Like, oh, I don't take weekends. I haven't had a weekend off in, or I haven't had a day off in 3 years. Like that's
right. Right. And then people are like, does that make you better? And you're like, yes. And it's like,
I gotta get back to work.
Totally. But then you're never quite working and you're never quite on vacation.
Yeah,
then
that's exactly
you're just
it.
in a nightmare.
It's always in between. And I think like so much of it for me, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, but was like sort of escaping from dealing with important things and like making big decisions and like, working on relationships and having difficult conversations. And just like working all the time is a way of not acting. Almost.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like painting the shutters on a house that's on fire.
Like if I only get this done.
Look at my shutters. Nobody look around. Just look at the shutters. I love mauve. Oh my god. I'm so smart.
But I think that's such an interesting point about sort of a big burst of working really hard. And it makes me think of, I don't know how relevant this is, but it made me think of this quote by Cheryl Strayed. And it says, I'll never know, and neither will you, of the life you don't choose. We'll only know that whatever that sister life was, it was important and beautiful and not ours. It was the ghost ship that didn't carry us. There's nothing to do but salute it from the shore. And so, like, all the things that we didn't do because we were working too hard, those were good too, but this is also good.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was
beautiful
really nice. Well, it makes me think about, this isn't like an exact quote or whatever, but something Thoreau said that was just like, before you sit down to write, first you must stand up to live.
Whoa.
And to me, it's about like sustainability. Will I have things to write about because I'm living? Will I have things to live about because my writing is good, you know? And can I trust that my little comics gremlin will be there when I get back from vacation? And I just have to, like, test that and be like, oh, yeah, cool.
And I think it's like your value is in your skill and not your work, almost. Like, your skill is still going to be there. Like, you're going to go away and then you're going to have more to write about, and you're going to have this skill that you cultivated to use.
Not only skill, it's like perspective. It's like people want to see how you see the world. So you have to go look at it.
Yeah.
Totally. Now I feel like I have to pull some really amazing quote out of my pocket, and I don't have one. I can only say that it's, like, super impressive to hear how you work. It sounds like a really productive and healthy sort of situation that you've got going on.
It is really nice. I met with a friend yesterday, though, for lunch, and he was like, you can't get too happy, though. Then it's not relatable.
Oh my god.
Ooh.
And I was like, don't worry. There's always, like, low level, you know, anxiety.
There's always something.
Yeah.
That is such a hard thing. Because, like, I felt exactly like that, like, the moment that I started, like, healing and, like, going to therapy and starting to work on stuff, like, all of my relatable problems. I still have problems, but, you know, and you can only do so many comics about being tired.
Right.
But there's also, like, a lot of really, really relatable stuff in starting that journey towards getting out of the pit.
Yeah.
And, like, climbing out of it.
And I think the most valuable thing is that it's authentic to someone's experience. So...
Well, I mean, no one's ever completely out of the pit, I think. There's always someone at every sort of spot on the spectrum of pit climbing.
When you climb out and you slither back in.
You slip on a banana peel and you go right back down to the bottom.
You go to a Christmas party and then you just climb back into the pit. I was gonna say, like, sometimes, though, like, Fiona, you're like, this looks pretty good, but, like, honestly, sometimes when I turn on my computer, I, like, check, whatever, Patreon or whatever website, and then people still read my stuff, and I'm like, oh, cool. Just checking.
Yeah. Like, are y'all still there?
It's like, yo, Mom, do you still love me? And she's like, of course. Like, I'm making hamburgers. I'm like, cool, just checking. See you later.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't feel like nothing feels, like, permanently good. You're always just like, wait, when's the next shoe gonna drop, kind of.
Yeah, and it's also hard because, like, the bar always moves. Like, I can always compare myself to someone else. And I mean, I would, if I was an undergrad and I saw who I am now, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. But then me, I'm like, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
My standing desk is like a bookshelf with a bed and breakfast tray on it that I found in the road. And then I'm like,
oh my god.
meh.
Okay, I never said nothing. Want to talk to you?
Who is
What's
that?
going on?
My dad is taking tea time.
Does he want to be on
near
the
my
podcast?
office. Dad, do you want to be on the podcast?
No.
It also really fit perfectly when I just talked about my standing desk, and then someone's dad bursts in through, like, a curtain, or it's just like, don't break the illusion of success.
We're all in our closets here, just kind of, like, trying to make something.
Yeah, truly. Sorry for the interruption there. I have a question, which is, do you have, like, I guess, like, sometimes we talk a bit about if there's one thing that you really wanted to do, like, underneath it all, but, like, you can't make yourself do, or, like, you're holding back because for
What's
whatever
your
reason.
secret dream?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. Secret dream.
Secret dream. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I should have one because it's the American way to be dissatisfied. To always be reaching for the unattainable. But I think my secret dream is just to keep... This sounds like a bad interview answer. Like, what's your greatest weakness? No, but I think my weakness is that I work too hard. I think my secret dream...
I'm a perfectionist.
And one of my friends, he applied for a job at Walmart one time, and they were like, "What's your greatest weakness?" And he was like, "I cut a lot of corners." And then he was like, "I didn't get the job." I was like,
That's really funny.
Anyway, but my secret dream is just to like be happy with what I have
Yeah.
Whoa.
Be content.
and to keep
Maybe.
making stuff that people love. And I don't aspire to like an animated, feature length movie or to be on every bus in London. Like, I mean, maybe I need to like, it would be helpful to have bigger dreams, but honestly, I'm like, this is awesome. I just make stuff. Maybe one day I could have like an employee where I'd be like, you there, do the things so I get to draw. I think that might be my secret dream,
Right.
but they're expensive. But I mean, I would like to make like a graphic novel, but it's also
Yeah.
not something that I'm gonna force before it's happening to prove that I have value.
Like you don't feel like
Yeah.
you're putting it off. It feels
No.
like it's there when you need it.
Yeah, and I don't need to like, I'm just like training. I don't know how to describe it. Like it sounds directionless, but I just keep drawing and playing, and my secret dream is to not get sick of myself and to not get sick of my art and to not have people be like, this used to be funny, and just be like, oh.
Yeah.
And to kind of keep it like pretty independent. I love working with a publisher because they can do so much more than my like $25 shipping to an international place. And I'm just like, sorry.
Ooh, ouch.
But no, I don't know.
The thing that I thought when you said that was like, it feels really good because I feel like sometimes when you set yourself a very, very specific goal for the future, you kind of keep your eyes set on that one thing and then you don't see other things that could take you to a different but like equally good place.
Right. And I hear once you get the thing, you're most miserable.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it, like the arrival fallacy or something?
I've never heard of
You
that.
never really
Ooh.
get there. Like there's no such thing as getting there.
Like the destination is in your heart.
Yeah, or like something about the journey. I'm not sure. But it sounds like
No, it's like it's about the journey, not the
It's
destination.
about the friends you make along the way.
we're on a continuum
Yeah.
here.
No, but
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
thought of it like that. If you set your goal on something, then you miss the thing that is in front of you. Like if you're just looking
Yeah, like I
up.
feel like people can spend a lot of energy trying to like cram their life into like a certain direction when really like I feel like as you age and as you grow, like you're not gonna keep doing the exact same thing forever. Like you're not gonna keep drawing comics every week probably forever. Like, the next step sort of naturally happened, which was making a book.
Right.
And then the next step, like, it's just kind of naturally going to happen, whatever it may be. So, like, I feel like just by virtue of going through life, there's this, like, built-in protection against sort of stagnation. And, like, I just kind of feel like we're going to grow. Like, we're not going to stagnate. Things are going to come to us that are supposed to come to us.
Yeah, and you don't want to be beholden to your past self who told you what you wanted. And then you're
Totally.
different now.
Oh my God, did you watch that video by Hank Green?
No.
Oh, okay, because he made this video about, like, he said something like, he basically said, like, don't be a slave to your past self. Your past self made these decisions for your future, but you don't have to do what he says, basically.
Totally.
It was like that idea. Yeah, it's really cool. I like it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I have it planned, like, 6 months out-ish. And I'll be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this looks good. But sometimes people are like, get your 5-year plan. And, like,
Oh my God.
I think it is helpful to, like, maybe have a goal. Like, if you're like, oh, I want to save for a house. It's like, that's cool. But then it's like, you want to be broad and specific, maybe, if that's your goal. But it'd be so easy to miss things if...
Yeah.
I save for a house, or I have to buy a house in December, and it's a terrible house, and it's like,
Ooh.
dang,
This was the only one they had.
right? Like I told myself I would do it now. And it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So I think something interesting about I think when I think of secret dreams, I think of dreams that you're not working towards, that you hold and you're afraid of, but in your heart you know is true. And I think it sounds like for you, you're doing a really good job of like taking actions towards, the things that you care about, which is like being sustainable. And if I'm going to be sustainable, like my body needs to still work, and like I need to have social time, and I need to, get out of my house. I need to have a routine. I need to have a sort of a schedule that allows for me to be healthy, and so that I can keep doing this stuff and not get sick of myself,
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't touched on this at all, but like, it's so important to run art like a business. Like to have, like to pay your taxes the right way. And I've definitely like done it the wrong way, and then I'm like, oh, now I get it. Oh my God, that's a $2,000 bill. That's terrible. But like, I think that's part of sustainability too, because I think there's sort of like a myth of like creative people, like you'll just like someone will cut you a check
and you'll just manifest all of your
$100,000, like woo. But it's like, okay, we need a budget, we need to record some stuff, and look, it's like the really boring part of making art, but it's the part that could ensure that it keeps getting made, instead of like I'm rich, I'm broke, I'm rich, I'm broke again.
What a surprise.
What a surprise. Right, like, it's like, you shouldn't be surprised. Like, that it's happening again.
I think it's so funny because there's this really trivial example of this. Because I remember it friggin' blew my mind when you were like, we met and you were like, I have a notebook in my backpack, and I have a notebook by my bed, and I have a notebook at my desk for keeping my ideas in. And I was like, what? Like, you don't just like, because like I do not have that. And I heard that tidbit from you, and I still don't have that really. Like, but just like this sort of naive expectation that like you're just gonna get into flow with like the universe, and like your ideas are just gonna come from somewhere. But like if you friggin' write them down, then you can actually workshop them into good ideas.
Oh yeah,
You don't just have to deal with the bad ones.
In July, I didn't write a single comic. I just like read my sketchbooks and then put them together. It was like a Lego assembly. I was like, hey, this looks pretty good. And then I'll be like, this is trash. Like, I build it, and it's like the ugliest thing you've ever seen. I'm like, whoa, that's nasty. And then I like just move on to some other thing in my sketchbooks. But you're right, like, you can't just like manifest it. Like, I think that's the scariest thing, when people are like, well, time to sit down and
pound it out.
Write a comic. It's like, oh my God. I've been there, and it's the worst.
It's awful.
Yeah, it's Jess, I feel like that's your MO.
Yeah. I do it all the time. That's all I do. It's the worst.
Yeah.
And
at like
wonder,
11:30 p.m.
It kind of makes me wonder if it's like, I just didn't know any artists. I kind of made it up as I went along, and it was astonishing to me to meet another person who did art. I feel like the Montreal Comics Festival was like that was the first festival that I had ever gone to. That's the first like anything that I had ever really done, and I'm like, oh my God, there's more of me. Like, there's other people out here that are doing this, and there's a way to do it. But I wonder if it's like art has such a stigma, like being an artist has such a shameful zing to it, that's like you have to be tortured and you have to be broke and starving and like disorganized. Like, there's all of these stereotypes that if you don't
so good.
So yeah, that was basically my life until I met you, and it's still my life, except now I know you.
Except now you know there's a better way.
Yeah. And I'm still like biding my time, I guess. But man, the things you can do if you write them down. Holy.
I was gonna say, it's like the worst comparison that I just came up with in my head, but it's like trying to poop and you haven't eaten any food. And you're just like, okay, time to just like poop out a comic. It's like, you haven't done anything.
Any minute now.
Oh my god.
You're gonna hurt yourself.
Occupied!
And then you're gonna be like, why do I suck? And it's like, you don't. You just haven't, like, you didn't do anything. You didn't stretch. Let's mix those metaphors. Like,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
You mean you don't stretch to poop? You don't stretch, work out.
Let's put those metaphors back together, make it real weird.
that's one of my earliest challenges was mixing my metaphors. And I'd be like,
I love it. I love it.
hold on, this is 2 comics. This is getting ugly.
That question made me think of another thing that I'd like to know, which is like, do you know other people who are artists? Like, do you have like a sort of network or community of people?
I mean, I know some people who, like, I mean, I met a lot of people at comic conventions, but, like, Jess was saying that she made stuff sort of, and then, like, met another creature and was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
they exist.
Yeah.
I got really, really lucky because my friend Nick Gerwich lived in town when I started making comics, and he is, like, a super successful, independently employed comic artist.
Okay, cool.
I mean, he just, like, makes all his own stuff, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. Even in Syracuse, I had professors, but they were like 60, and, you know, they'd kind of be like, you gotta get Winsor Newton paint, and I would be like, okay, I have it, and then they'd be like, get a Winsor Newton brush, and then, like, they were helpful to that extent, but they'd also been like, back in my day, like, the train conductor would pick up the oil painting, and, like, I knocked on every door in New York City, and I'd just be like, what? And so, when I started making comics, and, well, I was, like, drawing stuff and realized I wanted to make comics, and then my aunt was like, you gotta look up your favorite artists, and then the first one I looked up lived, like, a mile away from me, and
Oh, cool.
then I emailed him, and he was like, these are fun, like, I'm away right now, you wanna hang out? And so we hung out every week for, like, 4 years, and called it Art Club. And so he would be like, I'd be like, how much do you sell originals for? And he'd be like, start with $50,
Yeah.
and then try again, and then try again, and try again. And it was this sort of, like, I definitely had to, like, leave some things, like, a little more, I'm a little more organized, you know? And eventually I had to be like, okay, we're peers now, like,
Yeah.
but it was amazing to have someone be like,
Almost like a mentor, kind of?
total mentor. And I would be like,
Okay, cool.
I'd be like, what is something that you wish you'd done differently? He's like, Jackie, give me this piece of paper. What is this? What do you got on your questions? Like, just draw some stuff. Like, do it. And I'd be like, how do I make comics? And he's just like, just get to work. And so
That's so good.
that part's, like, totally invaluable because seeing someone else do it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is real.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, like shows you that it's possible.
totally. And he'd be like, oh, gotta go to the chiropractor. Like, my spine is melting again. I'd be like,
No.
Better start doing yoga.
totally. And then I was like, man, this guy's, like, really into yoga and, like, you know, fresh vegetables. What's his deal? And then I'm like, oh, he's trying to, like, not wither away in his apartment.
Cool.
That's so huge. And I think, like, it's so interesting because he's been doing comics for, like, a very long time. Like, what is it, like 20 years or something?
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, when you think of webcomics, he was, like, I think one of the original guys out there. Like, I don't know. I don't know really what to say about him except that, like, it's almost a household name.
Yeah, it's, like, foundational to
Yeah, and I think
a medium.
Wait, what's his name again? I just want to Google him.
Perry Bible Fellowship is the comic that he does.
Oh, no way. Okay, I do know that. Okay.
Yeah, totally. See,
Okay.
household name.
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting because, like, I don't know that I would reach out to someone who was quote unquote famous in that way. And it sounds like it has been a really rewarding friendship of, like, being a peer with someone.
Totally.
And that's just so interesting, and it feels sometimes so inaccessible because you look at someone on the internet and you're like, oh, they have, 100,000 followers. Like, they'll never be my friend. And so, I don't know. That was I don't know if it felt brave at the time, but that feels brave and wonderful to have reached out to someone.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, totally. I mean, part of it was definitely my aunt being like, get it together. And I was like, okay. And I would send an email. But I also think there's sort of this, I can't speak for Nick, but I would say just in general, there's like a success fallacy maybe, where people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're so successful, they wouldn't want anything to do with me. And then that's how everybody treats them. Mm-hmm. And so then to get an email that's like, hiya. You want to eat a bagel?
Want to hang out?
Right? It's like, all right, whatever, sure.
Yeah, like, Jess, didn't you say that, like, once things started to, like, really pick up with bird strips, that people sort of, like, stopped messaging you?
Yeah. Like, I don't get, like, any messages anymore. And I used to get, like...
So they probably thought, like, oh, she has, like, however many followers, she probably won't want to answer me. Mm-hmm. Whereas it's, like, they would be probably the only message you would get that day. So, like, might as well send it. Like, hell.
Totally. And, like, I would love to work with doers. You know, like, there's something to be said for people who are making stuff. Like, I would love to make stuff alongside someone else who is making stuff. I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you sort of, it, like, raises the bar on each other.
Yeah.
You're like,
totally.
What are you making? Oh, what am I making?
Yeah, and you can't just show up to your weekly art club with, like, nothing. Mm-hmm. You know?
Right.
I mean, maybe you could. I don't know what your art club was like, but I'd be like, I gotta bring my sketchbook, and I gotta make sure I draw something. Like, we can't show up to this weekly friggin' podcast with having done nothing.
I mean, sometimes we do, but like, we try really hard not to.
Yeah.
Well, then
it's a really good motivation for sure.
I could show up with nothing, but then it would be like it'd be such a waste. Like, it would be, I'd be like, ideally is to have like 10 things sketched. And then it would be like, oh, this looks good. You know, oh, what if you moved the word balloon over here? And I'd be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've definitely moved more into like making independent choices. Because I'm like, I think I got this. And also, like, no one knows what I'm trying to say but me. But, and then sometimes, like you were saying earlier, like, you revealed that toilet painting. And then you already, like, got all the kudos from it. So now you don't have to finish it. And so now I don't, you know, I try not to share as much stuff. But every once in a while, I'll still be like, yo, Nick, can you think of a better ending? And then that's just, like, really fun.
Yeah, that's sort of like workshopping, and then it feels kind of like play. Like, you get to involve somebody else in your creative process, which is fun.
But sometimes I'm like, this is due in 10 minutes. I can't show a soul. if it's terrible, I just have to live with it.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys hear all those bells clanging?
Yeah, what was that?
Did.
Oh, shit. My aunt lives right across from this giant church, and at 6 o'clock every day it just like clangs for 4 minutes straight. So I tried to like keep quiet so that I could cut out as much of it as I could, but I don't know.
Sounded good. I liked it. I liked the bells.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was pretty loud. How we feeling, guys? Are we tired? I'm tired.
I feel like we did 2 hours when I told Jackie that we'd be like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't care. This is great.
Okay, good.
I have to go, like, pack and stuff and, like, do which is such a huge bummer. Like,
yeah. Wait, Jess, are you leaving, like, tomorrow?
Yeah.
Shit, man.
I know. Surprise!
Go away.
Yeah. Yeah, but it'll be okay. Gotta go hang out with my dad.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Spend some family time before you scarper.
Yeah, why isn't he going?
Because he doesn't want to.
Fair. He's got free will.
Yeah. Oh, here he comes. What's going on?
Just have him say thanks for listening to Art Horse.
Okay. Can you say thanks for listening to Art Horse?
Thanks for listening to Art Force.
No!
Dude, you gotta keep that.
Oh, for sure.
No.
Oh.
Come on, Ben, let's get out of here.
I'm surprised you didn't say fart horse. honestly.
Just make him do it right.
No, he's not. Okay, I gotta go.
Was that ending okay? I feel like I just ended on like a weird gasp.
We never know if
No.
our endings are okay.
Do you have any last words?
Oh, Jess, shoot. We should say the things that we need to say.
Yeah.
Like, shit.
Like what?
Like, check out our Instagram at arthorsepod to see the images that go along with this episode. And if you feel like it, send us the email at arthorsepod@gmail.com. If you want to tweet at me, Fiona, it's Fiona O fart horse on Twitter. And
Yeah. Jackie, do you have anything that you want to, like, plug, tell us about? Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me. I'm most active on Instagram and Patreon. Instagram's Underpants and Overbites. And then Patreon, if you want to get a juicy extra comic a week and support an artist in a one bedroom, you can sign up for Patreon. And it's just look up Underpants and Overbites Patreon.
Sweet.
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. This is great.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Can I come back?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Oh my god. As regularly as you want to.
Oh,
Yeah.
MG.
You should be like something correspondent.
Oh, is that like a...
Like the Rochester correspondent.
Yeah.
I love that. What if there was like a monthly check-in or something?
Yeah.
That'd be so,
That'd be so much
fun.
fun. Actual professional artist correspondent or something. No offense, Jess.
Hey, rude. First of all, you saw my toilet painting.
Yes, it was beautiful. I can't lift anybody up without putting somebody else down. There has to be balance in the universe.
It's a blessing and a curse.
All right. Okay, guys.
Yeah, but like really, can we hang out again? Maybe
Yes.
September?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, we'll work something out. We can do another podcast or just like be real life friends.
Oh my god.
Sure.
Cool.
No way.
Yeah. Ooh. Okay, I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop. Hang on. I'm just gonna stop.
Everyone says goodbye.